I would like now to share some of the information from the generative father perspective, which is based on the work of Andrew King from Groupwork Solutions in Wollongong, Australia. The deficit approach of fathers and men. According to Hawkins and Dolehite, the way that the deficit approach is expressed with respect to fathers is acted out at all levels of influence, from the individual father or man to the family level, to the community service delivery level, and even to the societal level. How is the deficit perspective assumption expressed? Well, it's expressed in a variety of different manners. First of all, there's the emotionally challenged man, the under-involvement in household activities assumptions, the father who has little interest in professional feedback about their children, and the abusing father assumption. And we will get more into these in the next following slides. The abusing father. A large number of community service providers have a perception that a large number of fathers physically abuse their children and or have the potential as fathers to sexually abuse their children. These perceptions most certainly influence the way that professionals develop a trusting therapeutic with most fathers, and truly has a huge impact on the therapeutic relationship between the professional and the father. The emotionally challenged father. There are many different ways to express these types of dads, such as incompetent, unaware, has a fear of intimacy, emotionally constricted, emotionally constipated, emotionally stunted, lacking emotions. There's certainly agreement that fathers' emotional articulation is not at the same level as mothers, and that support in the form of one-to-one counseling or psychoeducational father-parent groups can help dads with emotional articulation and expression. As well, by teaching men and fathers about better emotional articulation, this can be passed on to their children too. One thing is clear, though. Almost all fathers want a better life for their children and wish to play a part in this. The father's under-involvement in household activities. This is a common misperception. Dads now spend almost 67% of the time that mothers spend with their children. And the difference between moms and dads' time with their children is due to the time spent at work. There's a greater expectation for fathers to work longer hours and take off less time for family responsibilities. And this was in a study by Duxbury and Higgins of over 33,000 workers in 100 different organizations, known as the 2001 National Work-Life Study. In the 70s, dads only spent about 40% of the time that mothers spend with their children. This is a huge change in role sharing. Another impact in household activities has been society's evolution towards greater gender equity. Society's views about gender roles in the home and in some workplaces have become more flexible and have allowed fathers to take parental leave, to spend more time with their newborns, and to take advantage of some workplace family-friendly policies that allow dads to spend more time with their children and families, and in some cases to even work from home or telecommute. But as we know from the fathers in this report, many workplaces, especially private sector and for-profit sector workplaces, still seem to move in a direction that supports their male employees' role as fathers in their families and provide better options for parental leave and flex time and telecommuting opportunities. Another deficit assumption approach of working with men and fathers is fathers have little interest in professional feedback about their children. Very often when community service social workers give their feedback to parents about children, it's very often to the mother. In fact, even in family files where the biological dad is the one with primary caregiving role, the file is still in the name of the biological mother, even if the mother only has supervised access or is working toward access and visitation. This systemic approach that automatically assumes the mother as the primary caregiver is very much rooted in the past, when the father was the provider and the mother stayed at home. But despite the radical changes in family roles today, in '76 only about 39% of families with children under 16 years of age had both parents working outside the home. Today that figure's closer to 69 or 70% of households in Canada. With more mothers working outside the home, Fathers need to do their fair share of childcare and domestic duties. No more can dad simply come home, tell his partner that he has had a tough day at work, and wear his supper. Most Canadian mothers also work outside the home, and also have just as rough a day at work, and need dad's help to help with both childcare and housework. Fathers are helping and are a big support to both mothers and children. One of the underlying reasons that the deficit assumption is not working is that it will create little change within men, because it has little recognition of growth and development. It certainly misconstrues the motives, feelings, attitudes, and hopes of most men. It creates barriers to change rather than its promotion, and it has a narrow standard of good parenting. Some of these things, particularly the narrow standard of good parenting, identifies mothering as being the gold seal of parenting, and that fathers are simply doing the babysitting or the secondary role, when in fact mothering and fathering, albeit unique, both make important contributions to the life of the developing child, and even though they are different and unique, they are still essential to the health and well-being of the child. Generativity is truly a key to successful aging, since generativity is caring for something outside yourself, or involves taking care of the next generation. This is something that resonates well with men. They begin at a certain age to understand that they want to leave a legacy, this notion of leaving something after they're gone, and certainly a child is a perfect embodiment of that particular generativity approach. It's also the best predictor for successful aging for men and women. As we know, men that are able to have children and feel that they have a legacy then are able to become happy and at peace once they reach a certain age, rather than becoming stagnant and bitter. It's also a key motivator in life for men to get them to think outside of themselves, to invest one's substance in forms of life and work that will outlive the self. So this certainly is something that resonates well with dad, and certainly do it at a group level. Working with men and fathers is a great condition or condition for success with father groups, or a way of motivating men and fathers to be involved in the life of a child. Generative fathering is fathering that meets the needs of children by working to create and maintain a developing, valuable relationship with them. It's truly about the relationship between a father and a child, and certainly using the child as a motivation for the father to attend and become part of fathering psychoeducational courses is certainly one way of motivating the dad. Generative fathering is caring for someone external to you, or supporting the development of the next generation, as we've spoken about. And generative fathering is certainly central to men's own sense of self-esteem and growth, as outlined with respect to being able to leave a legacy and feeling at peace about that as one becomes older. There are certain things that do work against the generative stage, and certainly self-absorption. Men that are solely interested in themselves, think nothing beyond themselves, and this can certainly lend itself to men not being able to think outside of themselves. Stagnation is another notion that can work against the generative stage, where a man is just simply stuck at a certain level in their development and can't move beyond that, and can't then think outside of themselves. And another obstacle to generative fathering is this something referred to as generative chill, and this is an extreme threat to an adult's parental generativity. Will result in a generative chill, a type of anxiety resulting from a perceived or real danger of losing the child or children one has helped to create. And it seems likely that brief or extended threats to generativity will have a significant impact on a father's selfhood. And so certainly when men do end up becoming separated or divorced, or a family breakdown is inevitable, this can present separated fathers with a threat, and that often results in depression, since fathers then begin to think that they're not able then to pass on a legacy and have involvement in their child's life. So developing a non-deficit perspective is building on that generativity, and men can commit to being involved in the life of the child. They can choose to become involved in the life of the child. They're able to care for a child and care for someone outside of themselves. They're able to change and make change in their life so that they're better able to handle the work-life balance and have a more balanced life and be more involved in the life of a child. They can also learn to create a better balance in that life and connect with their child. And in addition to that, increased communication and the ability to communicate with everyone around them. Truly, no man is an island, and this ability to communicate cuts across all of those levels of influence. And generative care involves reassuring the children they're loved by all the family, including the mother, fathers, uncles, aunts, etc. Also letting them know that they're there for them, but don't need them all the time. So there's that nice balance between dependence and independence, a healthy balance. Also letting them know they're okay and will be okay as long as both parents are involved and the children are happy, safe, and secure. Showing the children you're okay. There's an old expression that if you're not doing well, your children aren't doing well. And certainly by showing your children that you're okay, this lends itself to the child's peace and care. Providing the tools of life, and this is certainly one of those roles that can be done through generative care and through the legacy idea of being able to then create your child so that they will have the problem-solving skills and the problem-solving abilities later in their life, so that they'll be prepared. And that's one of the roles that we can take on through generative care as men and fathers. Being mindful of the present in childhood. Remember, both mothers and fathers need to decide between work and family, but being stuck in the workplace and putting all of our eggs into that work basket then results in us missing out on children and their childhood in some of those early years. And it's those years that you'll never get back. You can always make money, but you can never get back that time that you've lost by choosing work over family. And also investing in the future, who they will become. And that's a really important piece that we can prepare our children for. So the conclusion is many men certainly identify fathering as something which is active, it's challenging, it's creative, irreplaceable. It's hard work and it's a central part of their life and their identity, regardless of if they're in a family relationship or are separated. It's the quality of that relationship. And certainly the generative approach and generative fathering is something that men can latch on to and carry out for the rest of their life. Thank you.